The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo Toes.
Scary dog!
Dancing at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Hello, good evening, and welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna, and joining me apparently all the way from Gotham City, Miss Tate. Hello.
Hey there, how's it going?
Going good. So do you know which comic book that background was taken from, or the artist who did it?
I do not. I pulled it up from Google. Give me just a second. I will.
Because I could see in the bottom corner there, I think it says 2006 creation, but I don't see a name otherwise.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any names on the site that I grabbed it from, but it's the background's from Backdrops Fantastic Australia. So you can actually buy this.
Oh, nice. Can you imagine that on like a metallic display?
Oh god, that'd be so cool.
That would be nice, especially with those deep colors. I'd love that.
Oh yeah.
So, if you can't tell from Shay's background, we are returning to Gotham City tonight. We are talking The Penguin, the miniseries on HBO Max, coming to us as a spin-off of just tripped over my own words there, of The Batman, the 2022 adaptation of The Dark Knight, brought to us by Mr. Matt Reeves and starring Colin Farrell as everyone's favorite crime lord. This was brought to us by, wow, that was a lot of production companies: Acid Intended Productions, Six and Idaho Motion Picture Company, Dylan Clark Productions, Chapel Place Productions, Zobot Productions, DC Studios, and Warner Brother Television, and a $5 bill I found in my blazer. So, yes, this takes place after the 2022 film. The Riddler has launched his attack on Gotham City. The seawall has been broken. We have hundreds, if not thousands, of Gothamites who are homeless. We have death, destruction, ruin across the city. And the Batman is clearly busy dealing with all that crap because he never shows up once to help take down the Penguin. So he's probably got bigger fish to fry. So, yes, we were taking a look at Colin Farrell underneath an unsurmountable amount of makeup and prosthetics. I mean, I had to multiple times remind myself, oh my God, this is the sexiest Irish brogue in Hollywood. This is the same guy that we were just raving about last year in the Banshees of Inisherin. Wow. I think there's maybe two scenes in this whole movie that you recognize him, and it's ones where they focus primarily on his eyes, and that's it. Any other time you see him, the bald head, the giant nose, the 20 million chins, the huge body, the club foot, which, by the way, is an ingenious way to work in kind of a waddle effect to why we would call him the Penguin besides the hook nose.
Yeah.
So, Shay, you are the makeup queen. You are the only person I know who could do a credible bald head on Mr. Dorian Price and cover up that man's luxuriously gorgeous hair, which I've told him a million times is like one of his only few truly amazing qualities. And so tell me about your thoughts on the amazing makeup on Colin Farrell.
The makeup on Colin Farrell is absolutely fucking fantastic. They completely transformed that man. It's an absolute masterclass in how to do realistic makeup. A lot of it was silicone prosthetics, but they changed everything about his face. Like you said, the only time you can tell it's Colin Farrell is when there's a close-up of just his eyes.
He does have he's got puppy dog eyes. He really has very sad puppy dog eyes.
He does. He has very recognizable eyes, and there's not a lot you can do with like eyelid shape and stuff like that. But another part of changing the area around your eyes that is very difficult is they actually changed his brow ridge and they lifted his eyebrows up quite a bit, which completely transformed his face. There's a lot of makeup artists, even some of the best makeup artists, have a really hard time changing the features that are right around someone's eyes because one, they're so recognizable, and two, they move so much. And with the silicone-based prosthetics that they were using for the Batman and for the Penguin series, somehow they managed to change every single feature in his face while still giving him the ability to emote and even make micro expressions.
Absolutely. Let's see here. I'm going to go through the accolades here. A lot of these are pending. Yeah, they are currently up for Makeup Artist and Hairstyles Guild Award, Best Contemporary Makeup in a Television Series, Limited Miniseries, Hairstyling, Best Special Effects Makeup. So they got 3 awards pending. No idea when that actual award ceremony is going to be, but I really hope they get it.
Oh yeah, they absolutely deserve every single bit of that. Like they pulled out all of the stops. They did older age, they did a fat suit. Like they did an entire fucking fat suit because there's a couple of scenes in here where he's shirtless and that is not what Colin Farrell looks like.
Thank God. They did that scene where, okay, yeah, you have the scene in the first episode where he's being tortured by the Falcones, and yeah, he's naked. I mean, we only see like his top half and parts of his legs, and they added so much hair. The Penguin is hairy.
He is a hairy dude.
He is a very hairy dude. I was like, whoa, dude, look like a werewolf.
He has definitely got that feather coat for swimming.
Good line. Yeah, no, that alone was just so impressive, and yeah, it really does look absolutely amazing in this. So, like I said, Colin Farrell was in the 2022 Batman. He ran the Iceberg Lounge. Now, this is a very different version of the Penguin as what we've gotten in the past. It's kind of a Scarface-esque story. Have you seen the Al Pacino movie Scarface?
I have not. I am actually not a huge fan of like crime or gangster movies. They cause me a lot of anxiety, so I tend to not watch them.
You know what? That's fair. That's fair. I gotcha. Well, Scarface is it's an 80s film, and it's very much the idea of pulling yourself up by one's bootstraps. And what's the line? It's like, first you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the women. That's the line. So it's this idea of a gangster coming to America and climbing his way up to becoming one of the drug kingpins of America. And that's very much what we got here. In the comic books, the Penguin was kind of a spoiled rich boy, almost like a parallel, I would say, to Bruce Wayne, in that he took what he had and used it for fun and crime. And then we had the Burgess Meredith version of the Penguin, where we got that that awesome little laugh he did. And I refuse to insult Burgess Meredith any other way. That man was a gift from God, but he was just more of a comedy villain. There wasn't really a backstory to him from what I've seen. And of course we have the Danny DeVito Penguin, which was completely different, in which he was a deformed man who became a terrorist, essentially.
Yeah.
So this is a very different version, and also a different version of what we've seen a lot in the cartoons. I always liked the version of the Penguin from the animated series, which was kind of a combination, I would say, of the comic and a little bit of the Adam West. They turned him into kind of a fence in the redesign that they did, where he still ran the Iceberg Lounge, but he was doing dirty deals in the back. And I think that's kind of what they were also going with Colin Farrell's version in the 2022 film.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I want to talk about is the adaptation process here, because Batman is one of the few characters that we have seen that we can do these two totally different styles of adaptation. Now, the last couple of directors who have helmed the Batman films, Christopher Nolan and Matt Reeves, have taken it in a very realistic, grounded, gritty way. There is no way other superheroes can exist in these universes. I mean, if you watch The Dark Knight and you think, okay, so he's taking out the Joker and here comes Superman. No, that's not going to happen. And same with Matt Reeves. There's no way he's going to run into other members of the Justice League. In those universes, other superheroes cannot exist. But now we have other versions, like we see with Kevin Conroy's version, and what they tried to do with Ben Affleck before we realized, why the hell did we give these controls to Zack Snyder? We were idiots. And we had the attempt at the Justice League there. So I think Batman is one of the few characters that can really exist in both these worlds. You know, you think about other members of the DC universe and you think, okay, so they're interacting with other superheroes, but I don't think you can put them in this gritty, realistic universe. I don't think those superheroes could exist like that. And on the other hand, you have a handful of very gritty, realistic superheroes who could not exist in a universe with other superheroes. I mean, hell, as opposed to Marvel, where those characters were designed to work with each other. I don't think Marvel has created a single character that cannot, exist without other Marvel superheroes. Marvel exists for team-ups and crossovers.
Oh yeah, and Batman has a really odd versatility. Batman and Iron Man do roughly the same thing, but for some reason Batman has the ability for a very wide range of stories. Because Dorian has been educating me on Batman stuff because I kind of like
Mr.
it.
Professor Price.
Yeah.
Oh God, that sounds like a Batman villain, Professor Price.
But yeah, because I kind of like Batman. I didn't get super into it. I was a lot more into like Dark Horse and graphic novels and Impact Comics and stuff like that. But Batman can exist in a ton of different times and places, and really the only thing that you need for a Batman to exist is a place where there is a disparity between the rich and the poor, and the rich aren't doing anything about it until one of them finally decides to get conscience. Whereas something like Iron Man or even any of the other powered superheroes, they can't really exist without that fantasy element.
Very true. Well, my question to you is, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the version of Batman that we've seen in the Nolan and Reeves universes, or do you prefer the Batman we've seen in the Snyder and the Timmiverse, as we're going to call it? The Timmiverse, for the record, the Timmiverse is the Batman the animated series, the Justice League animated series. It's the Kevin Conroy Batman.
Okay. So I personally really prefer the Timmiverse ones. I love cartoons and comics, and my favorite iterations of a lot of characters are the more cartoony, the more fun, the more lighthearted versions, which the Timmiverse ones, the Batman is not necessarily lighthearted or fun in that universe, but it does bring in a little bit more of the fantasy element, which is very much what I look for in comic books and films and adaptations of comic books and films and stuff like that.
I'd agree. As much as I do like what we've gotten out of the Nolan and Reeves universes, I think I like the element of Batman still being able to be joined by other superheroes. I do love, as you put it, the fantasy element that we can tie back to that. And maybe I'm also just a little spoiled from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because I love being able to watch a comic book adaptation and be able to point out Easter eggs and be like, okay, does this mean this person's tied into this or something like that? Because I'm a giant nerd. But I do really miss that.
Oh yeah. Well, and it also gives the option of having villains face Batman in more and more creative ways, because with the more cartoony styles, you can bring in characters like the Mad Hatter or Clayface or any of the more very highly supernatural seeming characters.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and you can explore how Batman's going to deal with that. You can explore the characterization of people that end up getting caught up in those supernatural elements, and I think it just gives a lot more variety to the kinds of things that you can do, because the Nolan and the new I have completely blanked on the director's name,
Matt Reeves.
and the new Matt Reeves ones, they're good, but there's only so many characters that you can play with because it is so grounded in reality.
Very true. There's an episode of the Batman animated series, although it's technically the new Batman Adventures because it's after they got the redesign and Tim Drake, where he fights alongside Jason Blood to regain control of Etrigan the Demon from Clarion the Witch Boy. And that's actually one of my favorite episodes, and not just because they got Billy Zane voicing Jason Blood, and anything that man touches is gold as far as I'm concerned. But you're absolutely right. Batman does have a lot of supernatural elements that he faces. And when you keep these series extremely grounded and realistic, you do limit your options on what he can face. I could almost see the Mad Hatter being done in more of a realistic, but it would have to be super tongue-in-cheek. It's hinted that it's Jervis Tetch, the Mad Hatter. You know, they would really have to straight lace it. I mean, even more so than what they did with the Riddler in the 2022 Batman, because that was a crazy departure from what we've seen of the Riddler in the past.
Oh yeah,
Not that Paul Dano didn't do an amazing job with it, of course.
Yeah, Paul Dano did a fantastic job, and his performance was great. I just didn't really care for the characterization of the Riddler in that. Like, I feel like it didn't need specifically to be the Riddler. Like, they could have just made some kind of a serial killer, like, because that movie had way more of a feel like it was specifically a serial killer movie, like it was Silence of the Lambs or Seven or Zodiac or something like that.
Very much so. Like I said, he did a great job with it, and I am still holding out hope that the next Batman movie is going to focus on the Court of Owls. They have set it up so well, and I really hope that's where they're going with this. Has Dorian taught you anything about the Court of Owls yet?
He's taught me a little bit. Like, from what I can remember, the Court of Owls is like this big crime group that Ra's al Ghul came out of.
That's the League of Assassins / League of Shadows, depending on your depending on the rating. Is this meant for kids or not? Because we have to know which league it is. The Court of Owls is more so. How do I put this? You know how conspiracy theorists always talk about the elite controlling group that's higher than even the government, and it's where like the
Illuminati,
not just like the Illuminati, but it's like we're the richest of the rich. It's like the even more exclusive than the Illuminati kind of a thing. That's Court of Owls.
Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah,
that's the easiest way to put it, because they do talk a lot about who is the controlling authority in Gotham. Is it the government? Is it the gangsters? Who is? It's essentially who watches the Watchmen. So I think they were setting up for the Court of Owls very nicely. That's really where I hope they're going with this. So let's go ahead and get back to the series. So, like I said, this takes place shortly after the end of the 2022 film. We have the seawall broken. We have Death and Spare, and we have Oswald Cobb, who is making a play for the head of the crime families after accidentally killing Alberto Falcone because the man just got high and couldn't keep his damn mouth shut. You know, it's just like, dude, if you just nix the drugs for one night, you'd probably still be alive. Ends up killing him and invoking the wrath of his sister, Sophia Falcone, played by Cristin Milioti, I think is how her name is pronounced, who, like Colin Farrell, is walking away with a Golden Globe nomination for this, and she is absolutely amazing in this show. We're going to talk a lot about her, especially the 4th episode where we learn more about her backstory. When she's introduced, we find out that she was just recently released from 10 years in Arkham Asylum. She was not convicted, but she was arrested for supposedly hanging several women. They call her the Hangman. We find out in episode 4, though, she didn't actually do it. Her father framed her after she started asking too many questions. And yeah, she was subjected to 10 years of torture in Arkham Asylum after her father convinced the rest of the Falcone crime family to back his play, saying, "Oh yeah, she's mentally unbalanced. She's horribly violent. She definitely deserves to be there." And we see her transition from the daughter of a gangster who is not probably like the best, like the sweetest, kindest woman in the world, but someone who is still trying to do good. Someone who is, I would say, kind of the face of the family to the public eye. We see her doing public appearances on behalf of charities that she has helped set up in her mother's name. The poor girl found her mother dead by an apparent suicide, although we find out no, it wasn't suicide. Her father killed her and made it look like a suicide.
Oh yeah, that shit's gotta fuck you up.
Tell me about it. But that's how he's able to convince everyone, oh no, that she saw that and it just disturbed her, and that's why she went on that killing spree. And it's such a transition when you see that first scene of her in the flashback where she's at the charity event with Oz and she's wearing that cute little red dress and she's got her hair in a ponytail, and it's the same actress, but she looks 10 years younger.
Oh yeah. And some of that is probably the power of makeup. They did a lot, and it wasn't necessarily effects makeup to make her look a good chunk older in the scenes where it is modern day. They did quite a few things just with her like makeup styling alone. She had an entire eye look, and as much as I fucking hate it, they did a fantastic job with putting the black directly underneath her eyes with nothing on top. It's a look that was popular in the 80s, and I despise it, but it works for the characterization because it makes you look so much older and very tired.
Very much so. She looks like someone who has literally been through hell and back, and we see more or less she has been. This is also one of the few times we've gotten a look inside Arkham Asylum and what the inmates go through. So she has not really a roommate, but someone she could talk to, Magpie. This is one of the few callbacks to other DC characters. Magpie was a jewel thief who showed up periodically battling both Batman and Superman.
Please tell me she had like a bird costume.
Not necessarily, but the thing was she was attracted to jewels and jewelry that were named after birds. You know how you see like the Isis eye stone or something like that?
Yeah.
You know, that's what she went for. But her gimmick was not only that she stole them, she would leave booby-trapped replicas. They're often fatal to those who came across them.
That is cool.
We also have Dr. Ventress, who is the main scientist treating her. And by treating her, I mean giving her electric shock therapy the wrong way. If you've ever studied psychology, you know that you're supposed to knock the patient out before you zap them. Who was also in the comics as Mirror Man, one of the few bad guys who actually figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman. He used mirrors to create illusions to trip up the police and Batman, and I don't know how he did it, but he somehow made. God, I really wish Jesse was here. Maybe he could explain this. He somehow made a mirror into an X-ray.
So he was basically an angry close-up magician?
Pretty much.
Okie doke.
Yeah. But they have him as the one who's torturing poor Sophia for 10 years. But that whole episode was terrifying. Just the scene alone of her being arrested and having to go through the search and everything as she's treated in Arkham, you feel the violations that she is going through. As they're checking every orifice, they're going through her hair, they're checking her teeth, they're spraying her with a hose, they're, moving all of her clothes and everything. You feel just how terrified and how little she feels in all of this.
Oh yeah, and it is a horrifying look at the Arkham penitentiary system. And honestly, with as fucking degrading as those scenes were, it's not surprising why there is so much crime in Gotham, and why so many of the people that end up going to jail in Arkham break out and start destroying everything.
Pretty much. You stay there long enough, you go insane. But yeah, like I said, that was just a very horrifying scene. And even the moment when, excuse me, Alberto, her brother, comes to visit her and tells her she's not getting a trial date, that she's going to have to stay in there indefinitely. And it's that scene also, I think, that brings more of the series as a whole into a greater picture. Sophia's main motivation when she is released and she shows up in the series is to find out who killed her brother. But as you find out, her brother was literally the only family member that believed in her, that was trying to get her out of Arkham. The rest of the family was told by Carmine Falcone just to let her rot. Or even worse, that she mentions later, she says they probably all assumed I would die in Arkham.
Oh yeah, and it's the horrifying example of how power and fear can lead people to do just the worst things, even against their own family, against their own children.
Mm-hmm. Really is scary. It actually reminds me, there's a story of, I'm trying to remember who it is. But there is a member of the Kennedys that was put in.
It was Rose Kennedy.
Rose Kennedy,
He's
yeah.
the one that got the lobotomy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thrown in by her own father, lobotomized, left in there for who knows how long.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the reasoning for it was because she liked to go dancing.
There's a lot of conspiracy theories about why they did that, and unfortunately, there is a severe, obviously, lack of justice for women, especially during the time period where many times a woman would just be labeled as having hysteria or being hysterical, and they could lock her up indefinitely. There's a lot of women who ended up in insane asylums, and there is no record of what they did to deserve it or why they're in there. It was just hysteria. Well, what the hell does that mean? Were they causing fights? Were they arguing? Were they just not doing what their husbands wanted them to do? Not on record. So we may never know. But yeah, Sophia is she's just one of the few characters who has shown up from the comics. Now, a lot of people were asking why we didn't get more callbacks from other well-known characters in Gotham. But if you've read Batman Year One or The Long Halloween, you recognize these names: the Falcones, the Morones, the Gigantes. These are all characters that have shown up time and time again in the earliest, well, I don't want to say the earliest Batman comics, but the comics depicting Batman's early years, because obviously he took out the mob, and that's when the Rogues Gallery moved in.
Yeah,
it's kind of a callback to the line at the end of Batman Begins, the escalation discussion between Batman and Gordon.
yeah, and I honestly I don't think that this iteration of Batman, I don't think it needed the callbacks to, like, or hints at the Joker or the Riddler or Harley Quinn or any of that. Like, it wasn't their story. This was about the Penguin and how he got to be how he is.
Yeah, in a way, this was kind of Gotham's version of The Sopranos.
Yeah.
And no, you're absolutely right. This is where I think the TV show Gotham had its biggest failing, in that Gotham takes place between the assassination of the Waynes and Batman's first appearance. And we see more of the Gotham PD is run by Gordon, but they started adding way too many other characters from the Rogues Gallery. We started getting way too many characters to the point they brought in Mr. Freaking Freeze. Who's a great character, but has no business showing up before Batman does. And I felt that they turned it kind of into a thing of, I get that reference. Literally Captain America going, I get that reference.
Yeah, and I liked Gotham. I thought it was a fun show. Probably mostly because I didn't know anything about any of the new characters they were introducing, and I was just kind of like, oh, hey, cool people. I like the character design. That's about as much as I cared about it. But there was a pretty huge cast in Gotham.
Very much so. I still stand by what I say, though, that they should have dropped the name Dr. Woodrow when they mentioned the mushrooms. Maybe not Dr. Isley. Maybe not Pam, not Poison Ivy. But I still say Dr. Woodrow, saying something about him, because one of the main plot points of the series is they have created this new drug based off of, I can't even remember what it is. It's that mushroom that looks like it's bleeding. You know, it's a white mushroom. It looks like it's got red blood coming out of it.
I think it's called like fairy blood or something like that, but that's not what those mushrooms look like. Those mushrooms are those are actually cooking mushrooms. I think they're like reishi. And they've got like red corn syrup splattered on them.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. Somebody releases an article every couple of months or so. It's like it's like the top 10 freakiest looking mushrooms in the world, because yeah, a lot of mushrooms look weird as hell. And those are always on there. And it's actually interesting because I don't know so much about any hallucinogenic properties with those, but I do know that they've said that those bleeding style mushrooms, that red stuff is bitter as hell. And that's actually why it's a defensive mechanism by the mushrooms to make sure that they're not eaten.
Yeah, and I think those mushrooms are technically edible. Like, there's nothing poisonous or psychedelic about them. They're really fucking tiny and they don't taste good.
Yeah, it's like they're tiny and they taste like crap. But yeah, we get this new version that they could just kind of scrape the red goo off and crystallize it like it's freaking meth, and people take it and they are in this euphoric state and they call the drug bliss. So, again, it's just, I remember looking at those, I'm like, you do know that's not what those mushrooms look like, right? But credit to a different idea for it. So, again, we talked about, the show not having a lot of callbacks, but do you think they should have added a few more? Because, again, all we've got besides the mention of Selena Kyle at the end, and Magpie and Dr. Ventress, all we also have are the mobster characters from Year One and Long Halloween. Do you think the show would have been better if we had name dropped a little bit more from Batman? I mean, we don't even get a mention of the name Gordon or anything.
I don't think we needed to. I think this was very much the Penguin story. I think it had all of the characters that it needed to have for the Penguin to get where he was. And to be completely honest, I'm pretty sure this took place far enough in the past that it took place just a couple of years after the Riddler stuff, right?
Oh, right after the Riddler stuff.
Okay. So yeah, like
Batman's still fairly young, but it's not Year One. I think it said it's kind of like an adaptation of Year Two, sort of.
Okay. So yeah, like maybe having some visual stuff about how Gordon is reacting to the stuff that's happening in their little cul-de-sac that got flooded, or like efforts to either rehabilitate or figure out what the hell happened, so that maybe there's an initiative to stop things like the Rogues Gallery from happening.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, we clearly see that there really isn't much of an initiative to that, because if there's ever a show to talk about class warfare, it is definitely this one, because a good chunk of what was destroyed is the lower point. We see a lot of what they call Crown Point, which is pretty much the ghetto of Gotham, which was completely flooded out and destroyed. Nearly all the buildings have been condemned. So many of the people who live there are dead. But we also see the upper class of Gotham, the rich, who are doing fine and don't really seem to give a care. This is very much a look at what happens when the class warfare between the rich and the underclass just gets that bad. Something that we have seen a lot portrayed, unfortunately, especially in gangster shows, where it becomes, I am not turning to crime because I think it's fun. I am not turning to crime because I want to be wealthy, but it's because why do they have everything and we have nothing?
Oh yeah. Well, and I also think that that's part of why shows like this and other crime dramas and gangster stuff, it's part of why it is important, because it definitely shows that people don't do crime stuff for shits and giggles. A lot of the time crime happens because there are socioeconomic reasons and social reasons and all kinds of other factors that just lead a lot of people in certain areas to not be able to pull themselves out of places like that. And everyone needs to eat, everyone needs to feed their families. So people take whatever opportunities they can find to be able to provide for their families.
Yeah, and it's that kind of mentality that also leads us to one of our secondary characters, Victor, or as I'm going to call him, Jason Todd Light, who is seriously, the minute that he's introduced trying to steal the rims off of the Penguin's car. And when the Penguin catches him and he's holding him a gunpoint, he goes, "What's your name?" I actually said to myself, if he says Jason, so help me God, I'm already done with this series. Because that's how Jason Todd was introduced in the comics. He was caught trying to steal the rims off the freaking Batmobile. Kid's got huevos.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have Victor, who he's lost his entire family in the seawall flood. He has nothing, and he begs Oz for a chance and kind of becomes his right-hand man throughout the series, helping him out through a lot of stuff, takes care of his mother, becomes his driver, which is also a nice parallel because as we see in the flashbacks, Oz was Sophia's driver.
Mm-hmm.
We saw how he got started, and now Victor is Oz's driver. So you would think, okay, so we're going to see his start, but unfortunately in the last episode, we also see that start didn't go very far.
Yeah, and I actually asked Dorian about this and I was a little surprised that they didn't put another Batman character in there as Victor, because from the way they had portrayed Victor, like I figured he was going to end up being like Black Mask or any of the other gangster type characters, so that there was that like parallel of evil begets evil.
Yeah, Dorian actually talked about it. He thought he was going to turn out to be grow up or essentially turn into Victor Zsasz.
Oh, not sure I know who that is.
Serial killer who every time he kills someone, he marks a slash on his skin. So he's got he was in the beginning of Batman Begins, and he was horribly misrepresented in that Birds of Prey movie with Harley Quinn.
Okay.
But every character was horribly misrepresented in that movie. It wasn't just him.
I thought that movie was fun, but also it was very dumb fun.
Those who want to go check our older files, we did review that movie, and that is famously the one that broke me, and the guys laughed about me finally breaking when I tried to talk about Cassandra Cain and why that movie is an insult for what they did to her. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, we see a lot more of Oz's upbringing. We see what he has gone through in his rise. I think the one episode that caught me the most off guard is episode 7, Top Hat. We find out what happened to his brothers. We hear throughout the entire show that his 2 brothers are dead, doesn't know who his father is. His mother is alive, but he's kept her hidden because he doesn't want the Maronis or the Falcones to have any kind of leverage over him. So he tells everyone his mother's dead and she's living in this crappy little house off the grid. But that scene of finding out what he did to his brothers, I mean, I could almost understand if it was an accident, but it becomes abundantly clear that he knew what he was doing and he had no qualms whatsoever about letting his brothers drown in that overflow tunnel.
Oh yeah, that is some cold-blooded serial killer bullshit. Like, if this weren't a crime movie, I would have assumed that he was going to end up being like Red Dragon or Norman Bates or something like that.
Yeah, the boys are playing flashlight tag in the underground areas where we later see the Penguin's going to establish his mushroom labs. And his 2 brothers, Jack and Benny, end up going into an overflow tunnel to hide from them, knowing full well that because of Oz's okay, I know he's got a club foot, but I don't know what you call the metal bar around the foot. The thing that makes him walk so funny.
Oh, his brace?
Brace. Okay, yeah, we'll call it that. Because he has the brace, he can't really climb down ladders. So they're laughing about how it's like, you can't get us, you can't tag us. And Oz is just so upset at them. He seals the the tunnel, and it's just like, fine, see you later, and walks off. And at first I thought he didn't realize that there was no problem there, and he'd just go back later. It's like, okay, are you sorry now? But the more we watch it, the more we realize he knew exactly what was about to happen to his brothers, because they're trapped in there all night in the storm, and it's an overflow tunnel, and it overflows, and they drowned.
Oh yeah, he 100% knew what was going on. That kid is a fucking bad egg, and to be completely honest, and I don't know if they're supposed to put out a second season of this or whatever.
It's a miniseries. This is going to lead into the next Batman movie.
Okay. So I was actually mildly surprised that they didn't have this like big revelation that Penguin was Falcone's kid. And like, that's part of why he was so fucking psycho.
That would have been interesting. We know Falcone did have his affairs. Selena Kyle is his daughter as well. Side note, you did see the Batman 2022 film, right?
Yes.
Okay. Falcone in that film was played by John Turturro. Amazing actor, absolutely brilliant in this. He was unable to return for the miniseries. He had other commitments, and we got Mark Strong playing Falcone. As much as I love John Turturro, as great as an actor as he is, I think they should have just kept Mark Strong from the beginning, because we see him for one episode, and that one episode, he is terrifying. Mark Strong has a talent for playing a villain. We have seen him play the bad guy in so many other properties. You know, this is the guy who gave us Sinestro, Dr. Sylvestra in the first Shazam film. He was the villain in the first Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes film. He just has this gravitas to the way he carries himself, this seriousness, this I am not screwing around. You know, and when we see him as Falcone, I was just like, dude, why weren't you in the movie? I think he would have been I think he should have been Falcone in the film.
Yeah, he absolutely did a fantastic job. So he brought the terror for that, but he also brought a good chunk of charm. So with the Falcone that you see in this series, you can absolutely believe that he's a cold-blooded killer and a psychopath and just do whatever you can to get yourself on top. But you can also believe that he's charming enough to make real estate deals and business decisions and a lot of things that are completely over the table that he's using to cover up the crimes that he's committing, and work on keeping a public image that is very much one of Gotham's top elite people.
Absolutely. I mean, you had the scene where he finds out that Sophia has come across her mother, his wife, dead. And you have the scene of him picking her up, pulling her away, saying, no, honey, don't look, don't look, don't look. And there is compassion in his voice. There's no doubt that he killed his wife, but he did not want their daughter to see it. And he is horrified that she has come across like that. He is just like, oh God, that was not supposed to happen. He has an ability to carry the weight. And yeah, I stand by. He should have been Falcone in the film.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't really remember all that much about Falcone in the Batman movie.
Okay.
It just didn't stand out to me all that much.
Fair
but
enough.
This one is absolutely terrifying.
Okay, well then what did you think of Clancy Brown as Sal Maroni? Because there's a man, that man doesn't have to worry about carrying the weight so much. He's already a freaking giant with one of the deepest voices. There's a reason this man gets hired a ton for voiceover work. When he's portraying Sal Maroni, it's just like, yeah, there's a guy you don't want to screw over. Again, he does a really good job playing villains. Anyone who's seen Highlander knows exactly what I'm talking about. There can be only one. And he is just so good as this gangster. Even when he's locked up in prison, you still feel I still have control. Do not screw with me. Even if I'm stuck in here, I can still get to you. You know, just sound to his inflection to what he says and how he carries his lines.
Oh yeah, and Clancy Brown is just kind of a terrifying person in general. I'm sure he's a wonderful, very sweet dude in real life, but like,
you better be. He's the voice of Mr. Krabs. I want you guys all to remember that the bad guy from Highlander is also SpongeBob's boss. You know, think about that.
But yeah, he's just he is an absolutely imposing dude. Like, even when he's in handcuffs and sitting down, he is an imposing man.
Get that great. I think one of my favorite scenes of them, it's a minor thing, but it's when they break into Oz's, it's him and Sophia. They break into Oz's apartment and they're looking for anything they can get on him. And the brothers are dead. They think his mother is dead. And Sophia hands him a golf club and he's just like, he's taken everything from them and he has nothing because he realizes there's nothing he can have to put over on him, and he just goes nuts on the apartment with the golf club. But he's screaming, and I was like, he has nothing, and it's just, oh my God, it was just so amazing to see just all that aggression being let out like that.
Oh yeah, that was, honestly, that scene was a little cathartic even for me. Like, that one weird moment of unbridled rage in this incredibly tense miniseries.
So we have Sal Maroni is dead. How weird was it to see Sal Maroni die of a freaking heart attack at the hands while fighting I love that scene. The fact that Oz thinks he's going to take out Sal with his own two hands and get his revenge. And the dude just freaking croaks of a heart attack right there. It's like, oh, come on. That's not the way I wanted it.
I think that is poetic irony. Like, because that character, he fully expected that he was going to die by a gunshot or stabbing or something at the end of his life, and to just fucking keel over because of a heart valve problem and being old.
That was just so bizarre, but again, very poetic irony. And I do love Colin Farrell as Oz gets some of the best speeches in this series. Like every episode, he gets to give a speech and proof of why he is probably walking away. He might be walking away with that Golden Globe for best actor in a miniseries. He just delivers so many great speeches talking about everything. The way he is able to turn the Maronis against the Falcones against the Maronis, talk about just get anyone on his side. The man is ugly as sin, came from nothing, and he has used his wits and his charm. The man has charm, and he was able to use all of that to become the leader of Gotham's, he is now the kingpin of Gotham. He really is.
Yeah. And I mean, it's absolute proof that you don't have to be pretty in any way, shape, or form to be a charming person. Because the way he switches basically personalities between being this tough guy, I absolutely am a gangster, to being the like slightly timid driver, to almost trying to be a fatherly figure to Sophia. And it's like the dude has multiple personalities that he can just switch on and off.
Pretty much. And I just love how he's able to speak to anyone and get them on his side. I think my favorite of his speeches is actually when he meets with the kingpins of the other crime families. And he says he's got something for them. And you see this big case in the truck that his driver has. And you think it's going to be guns and he's going to like unleash. Well, what did you think was going to be in that case? Did you think it was going to be guns, new drug? What did you think was going to be there?
To be completely honest, I did think it was going to be more of the bliss. Like I thought he was going to like hand out samples or like he'd found another way to distribute the bliss or something like that. I was not expecting beer.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bomb, especially when he tells his guys, he's like, whoa, be careful, don't spill it. I thought it was going to be like, don't shake the components too much. I'm like, oh, gee, wonder why. Yeah, it's a freaking cooler full of beer and ice. And he throws beers to all of these gangsters, and they're all just like, are you kidding me? He's like, no, I got to point to this, and talks about how they have built themselves. I love his speech too. I guess he's kind of like an Irish mobster. It's like your ancestors built that bridge over there, and it's not your name on it.
Yeah.
It's such a good speech, and I love that they all essentially align with him by cracking open the beers.
That was so fucking funny.
That was just brilliant. That was brilliant writing and cinematography. And I love that you hear the out of each single one. It was so well done. Now, you brought up Clayface earlier. You do know that we are actually getting a Clayface movie. DC has apparently greenlit this.
I did not. Is that supposed to be in the same like universe that these are in, or is that going to be its own thing?
That's okay. Now, this is where things get really confusing because, okay, we know that James Gunn has taken over the DC film and TV universe. And those of you who have watched my shows in the past, you know that I practically worship the ground James Gunn walks on, so I am fine with this. Starting Creature Commandos, can't wait to watch it. We're getting the teaser trailer for the new Superman movie coming out in 2 days. Just the little motion poster alone has got me excited, especially did you see the motion poster?
I did not. I honestly don't keep track of DC stuff very much, just because DC is not really my thing, and I'm not super fond of the really serious DC stuff, which they seem to have wanted to go whole ham on.
Here, let me show this to you. I can actually put this up on the screen.
Oh, damn, that's cool.
Just the motion poster and the lines, look up. That's the tagline, look up.
That's cool.
And that tagline alone has sold me on this new Superman movie. It was like, that's brilliant.
I don't know. Is this Superman going to smile?
Fucking better. It's David Corn. Okay, you saw the X trilogy, right?
I don't think I've gotten to see that yet.
Pearl, X, and Maxine.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to see that yet.
Okay. Forgive me, but when you are with Mr. Dorian Price, I lose track of how many movies that man is showing you because I know that is his love language.
Yeah, and we definitely watch a lot of them, but Dorian's project for me for the last couple of years has been watching children's movies because I grew up on horror movies. And
he's rewriting your childhood.
Very many of them.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. Okay, David Cornsweet is playing the new Superman. He's been in a bunch of stuff, but the most recent and I would say the most prolific thing he's done in recent years was he was a love interest in Pearl, and I thought he was really good, especially since that takes place in the early 1900s. So he kind of had this, not 1930s, 40s charm, because obviously it takes place much earlier than that, but still that turn of the century swagger that you would expect out of that kind of era of Superman and Clark Kent and stuff like that. So that was the role that I saw. I'm like, okay, that's Superman. I am good with this.
Okay, that makes sense. That's exciting. I mean, I feel really bad for I want to call him Gerald. I know that's not his real name.
Henry Cavill.
Yes, I feel really bad for Henry Cavill because I feel like Henry Cavill would have made a really great Superman, and like he was super gung-ho about playing Superman, and he's a massive nerd and fucking loves all of it. And I think he kind of got shafted by how serious DC's wanted to be recently.
Henry Cavill was an excellent Superman, but unfortunately it was literally wrong time, wrong place. He was put into these movies with Zack Snyder, and whereas you can argue about Man of Steel, whether or not that was a good movie, the fact is that as Man of Steel came out, the Marvel Cinematic Universe was gaining steam, and DC said, we cannot wait anymore. We have to play catch up. And Cavill and all of his film options were sadly the result of Warner Brothers and DC trying to cram in what should have been like 5 years of movies into a 2-year pocket.
Yeah, we did get absolutely inundated with DC superhero movies for a little while.
Yeah, I mean, the Batman v Superman movie alone, it's like that was like trying to be 5 different projects alone. You know, it's like they were trying to combine the death of Superman along with the Dark Knight Returns, the introduction of Wonder Woman, and it's just like it was too much. It was really too much. And we had, unfortunately, what happened with the Justice League movie was Zack Snyder having to step away due to a tragedy in his family, and you had Joss Whedon take over, and you had the mustache gate, as I'm going to call it. You know, just it was, there was just too much that went wrong. You know, I do think that Henry Cavill could have been an amazing Superman, and I think he would have continued to be Superman for a long time, but it was really the worst possible situation that happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, he's both he and the fans are victims of extenuating circumstances. You know, there's no way any of us could have known this was going to happen. And, you know, just the whole thing blew up in our face. So Gunn is doing this new DC universe, but he has agreed that Matt Reeves can continue his universe. We are going to get 2 Batman story arcs going on at the same time. We are going to get the Matt Reeves story arc, and we're getting a new version of Batman in The Brave and the Bold. Because the first Batman movie, the one that came out in 2022, did so well, Warner Brothers has, of course, already greenlit the sequel. And Colin Farrell has confirmed he will be in the sequel. I don't think he's going to be as big of a role as he was in this one, but he is going to be in it. And Gunn's told Reeves that he's like, look, you can go ahead and do your thing. I'm not going to interfere. You know, DC has 2 little universes. Because as we mentioned before, there is no way you can logistically have Robert Pattinson's Batman team up with David Corensweet's Superman and have it make any kind of sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
So-
And I mean, that it kind of concerns me because it might end up being an overwhelm of Batman, but also at the same time, like we had said in the start of the podcast, Batman is super versatile.
Mhm.
There's a chance that they can put out 2 different Batman movies as long as they're different enough, that it might work.
I agree. Again, I think as long as it is very different. And I mean, that's the thing, is that they have the Batman Brave and the Bold, which is what they're going to do with the new DCEU. We're going to call it the DCEU and the Matt Reeves universe. So we're going to separate the 2 terms.
Is that going to be kind of like the Batman Brave and the Bold cartoon?
I have no idea. I just know that's what it's called. That was on the list that James Gunn revealed. I don't know what his plans are with it. He has not revealed anything else. All we know, the only details we've seen so far were for the new Superman movie, and of course for Creature Commandos, which has started airing on HBO Max. We will be reviewing that in January. Check back for that. And a lot of details on a Green Lantern focused story, which is going to include multiple Green Lanterns, and it has Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner, which I love.
Anything with Nathan Fillion, and I'm down for watching.
Well, I love it because it reminds me a lot of what we saw with Nathan Fillion in James Gunn's Suicide Squad, playing TDK, the detachable kid. Because I just have this image in my head of James Gunn, Nathan Fillion, and Michael Rooker just sitting at a table having drinks and saying, okay, so I want you 2 to be in Suicide Squad, and here's the thing, you're both going to die in the first 10 minutes. You're going to be really silly characters. And they're like, yeah, we're cool with that. I that's the way I see it in my head. So to have Nathan Fillion playing what is easily the least favorite Green Lantern of all time, Guy Gardner, like, yes, because you know that's a throwback to Gunn and Fillion's friendship, and I just love that they're doing it like that. But
and anything that he's in is going to have a good chunk of comedy in it.
Oh yeah, man is I don't care how long it's been since he's been in Firefly. Nathan Fillion will always be the supreme king of the geeks to me.
Oh yeah, and he's done so many great things. Firefly, Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the first films I ever saw him in was Slither.
Oh yeah, and that's a James Gunn film too.
Yeah. Oh god, that movie was so fucking ridiculous.
I know, right? But going back to the point, we really branched off here about the Clayface movie. So I think Clayface is going to be in the new DCEU universe, not the Matt Reeves universe.
Okay, so that one makes a lot more sense. I don't think Clayface belongs in the Matt Reeves universe, but if we've got a universe that's a little more comic-y, a little more supernatural, then I think it could definitely work. I'm not sure if Clayface could hold his own with just his own movie, because I feel like Clayface is a little bit more of a Spider-Man villain, and Spider-Man's villains don't really work very well outside of their interactions with Spider-Man.
Or even the Hunter. I'm sorry, I had some crap stuck in my throat. Yeah, go check out the guys Damn You Hollywood for that one. That they literally just recorded that last night. I think it could work if the version of Clayface they're going with is the Matt Hagen version. Clayface is a title that we've seen or has been donned by multiple characters. In fact, in the Batman Caped Crusader animated series that we just reviewed not too long ago here on TV Party Tonight, Clayface was adapted by another character called Basil Carlo, who essentially used.
Loved that one.
Yeah.
That one's my favorite Clayface.
It was a fun version. Now, Matt Hagen is the version we saw in the Timiverse, voiced by Ron Perlman. Again, another one of God's gift to acting. I love that man's voice, where he was a full-blown shapeshifter.
Mhm.
And I think that they can work with that if it is more the Matt Hagen storyline. As much as I love what they did with Basil Carlo, and we have seen other versions of it, I don't think those could fill a whole movie. I think it has to be the Matt Hagen, the deformed actor addicted to the drug that allowed him to fix his face, turned into this monstrosity that can shapeshift, turning to crime to get revenge on his creators.
Yeah, and I definitely think they're going to have to work really hard, and I really think that they're going to have to make it very much like a 1930s Universal monster style picture.
Ooh, that could be good.
Like they're going to have to push the horror a lot farther on it, and it's going to have to be very supernatural. It's going to have to be very character based. And they're gonna have to work really hard to get it to work really well for Clayface, because from what I've seen of Clayface's characters, he doesn't tend to have a whole lot of his own story arcs other than him like stealing shit to try to figure out how to fix himself.
Exactly. Not to mention, personal will come back here, and I know that you're on board with me on this. We need to see much more in the way of prosthetics and makeup on this. This cannot be an hour and a half of CGI. We need more of the original Thing and not that crappy remake of the Thing.
Oh yeah, we absolutely need to this movie, if it's going to work well, it needs to be a love letter to classic horror. It needs to be a love letter to the golden age of FX makeup. It needs to be scary. It needs to be heartfelt, and it really needs to be something that we're not currently seeing out of a lot of the Batman films.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking? It needs to be Terminator 2. We need a return to what they did with the T-1000, because think about the multitude of scenes of that were done with twins, less with a green screen, with prosthetics, with I don't want to say puppetry, but that's the only word I can really think of.
Yeah, the T-1000s were definitely in the realm of puppetry. And it was fantastic puppetry.
Like the scene right before the T-1000 falls into the lava, and he's kind of like, he had the bomb, and he's like half hanging open, half like on top, just like there's just massive wound and everything. That was really there. It was a puppet. It's not a prosthetic. It wasn't CGI. It's a puppet. And it looked amazing. And that's what we need to see out of Clayface.
Oh yeah. And honestly, especially if they're going forward with a more supernatural Batman, I really think this is a good opportunity to push forward more physical effects, because we've been doing CGI and stuff for a long time. It's gotten really good, but audiences can still tell the difference. And for a mainstream Batman movie to have almost entirely physical effects, that's gonna be something that's gonna completely break the mold for these new movies.
Definitely, they're going to have to really think outside the box, because if this is just an hour and a half of CGI, it's going to look terrible. We're going to hate it.
If it's just an hour and a half of CGI, they might as well make it a fully animated movie. Like, why even bother putting the actors in there? Just throw them in a sound booth and have them do voices.
Might as well. They already got Alan Tudyk voicing Clayface on the Harley Quinn show. And as I've said a million times, that there's one thing we need more of this world, it's more Alan Tudyk.
Alan Tudyk is a fucking treasure.
I love that man. Go check out our reviews of Resident Alien for the last 3 seasons. I'm doing a lot of plugs tonight. Okay, so I think that's pretty much everything I had on here to talk about. The Penguin is a really great series, but it is, again, as we mentioned, it's very much like Sopranos in the DC universe. This is not a story about Batman. Batman doesn't even show up in this. In fact, he doesn't even get mentioned. I was honestly surprised. I didn't even hear a mention of what about the Bat? Because Penguin has dealt with Batman. He dealt with him in the previous movie. So he knows he exists. It's not like in the start of the 89 Batman where it's like, look, there ain't no bat or anything like that. He's not an urban legend. He knows he's there. And I was honestly surprised there was no dropping of what about him? What about the Bat? The only clue we get to the Batman is in the final shot as we zoom out of the Penguin's new penthouse and we see the bat signal in the sky. And he's probably not even off to deal with the Penguin. He's probably, like I said, he's probably still dealing with all the crime from the seawall collapsing.
Oh yeah, and I honestly, I think that was a really good decision. Like, it's very obvious that we're fairly early in Batman's career. Nobody who has any kind of power is gonna give a shit about some dude beating kids up on the street or this one psycho weirdo that decided to blow the dam up because he had a crush on him. Like, those are issues that rich people have to deal with now. And I really think just not having any kind of a mention in it really made it compelling in that there is a massive class struggle going on in Gotham, and Batman's not even on anybody's radar quite yet. Like, the people that are in the areas that he patrols are probably mildly nervous, and the commissioners are probably on their toes so that they don't have another repeat of the Riddler incident. But nobody else cares. Batman is not the Dark Knight. He isn't the thing that stalks every shadow of Gotham just yet.
Go check out our triple feature of The Shadow, Dick Tracy, and the Phantom for that. So, while we don't know exactly which villains are going to appear in the next Batman movie, again, we saw the Riddler, we saw the Joker, the fans are calling for the Court of Owls. What Batman villain do you think would, if they didn't, again, we're not going to get a Penguin season 2. They've confirmed this was a miniseries. It's going to lead into Batman the second movie. But what other Batman villains do you think could potentially work as a miniseries in the same vein of what we got with Penguin? What do you think?
To be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure that a lot of the villains that I really want to see in a Batman movie would show up in this kind of situation.
Mm-hmm.
It might be nice to see some of the Assassin's Guild with like Ra's al Ghul. But again, that's kind of pushing it into the supernatural territory. But most of my favorite Batman villains are the absolute fucking weirdos. Like,
I'm honestly not surprised. That's not a criticism, but I'm honestly not surprised.
No, I like what I like. I like weird shit. But like,
you hang out with Dorian. I know you like weird shit.
Yeah, it definitely takes a different kind of person to be around Dorian, and I enjoy every single moment of it.
Well, I don't blame you. The man's awesome. But yeah, so you're hoping for some of the more balls to the wall. Okay, so who are some of your favorite Batman villains then?
So some of my favorite Batman villains, I actually really like the Riddler.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fond of the version that was in the Batman. Most of the reason why I like the Riddler is because he is the least interested in any amount of power. Like, his entire fucking thing is, I'm autistic as hell, and Batman seems smart, so I'm gonna fuck with him.
You know why the Riddler was in the least amount of the Batman animated series episodes?
No.
Because they were having the hardest time coming up with smart enough riddles for him.
Oh, that's funny.
It's literally like, damn it, we created a character and he's smarter than us.
Oh, I like that. They should have hired like cryptographers and puzzle makers and
I
stuff
know, right?
to write for the Riddler, because that would have been fun, and that would have been super engaging for the younger viewers. Because like then it wouldn't have been just like Batman goes and punches someone, or Batman has to solve a crime mystery. But I can definitely see why the writers would have some trouble if they're not like puzzle people, and they have to write this character whose entire existence is based around showing the world's greatest detective how much better he is at puzzles.
Now, I know we've already seen him in Batman Begins, but honestly, I want more Scarecrow.
I would definitely like more Scarecrow, but I think the version of Scarecrow that I want is more of the supernatural Scarecrow. Because in the Nolan movies, they did him fairly well, with the poison gas and stuff like that. And that was a very realistic depiction, and I think it was one of the best highly realistic depictions.
Yeah, I mean, Cillian Murphy was amazing in
Oh
that
yeah,
role.
Cillian Murphy is a fucking terrifying person in general.
Yes, he is. Deserved that Oscar for Oppenheimer, though. He deserved that.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if he got any awards for Peaky Blinders, but he definitely deserved it there. But yeah, and I think that version of the Scarecrow would fit really well into this version of Batman. But I also think that if they do it again, it's not going to be that much different from the Nolan version.
True, and they probably would want to do something that people aren't sitting here going like, wow, this seems familiar. So you're absolutely right. I mean, the Scarecrow has always been one of my favorite Batman villains. You know, I don't know, and I'm just as big of a horror fan too. It's like I just always love the design. I love the idea. I love what he does. I love the appeal that he has of psychology and how he uses that. And I love what Cillian Murphy brought to the role. I especially love his final costume at the end of Batman Begins, where it's the mask and the straitjacket.
Oh yeah,
really cool. Very creative. Yeah. Not as cool as the Jeffrey Combs version of the Scarecrow we got in the new Batman Adventures with the scythe.
I gotta watch that because I love Jeffrey Combs.
Oh, who doesn't?
He's a treat.
Mm-hmm.
But I did also just have a thought. There is a character in one of the Batman movies, and I can't remember what it is at the moment, but it's the Batman movie where Batman fell in love with a girl and she was killing off gangsters.
Mask of the Phantasm.
Yes, Mask of the Phantasm.
Arguably, for many of us, that is the greatest Batman film of all time. Doesn't matter that it was animated. A lot of us who grew up with it argue that it was better than anything Burton, Nolan, or Reeves ever gave us.
It was an absolutely fantastic movie. And honestly, I think the Phantasm in that would fit really well into this universe. Without being too out of place.
You know what? I normally curse the ground of anyone who says live action adaptation of an animated property, but I think there could be something there.
Oh yeah, and I think that entire story would work really well in this universe. There's nothing supernatural going on in that movie. It's just she's dealing with the death of her father, and there's a lot of issues involving like the gangsters and him trying to figure out this mystery of who's killing all of these people, and none of it hits into the supernatural realm. Like I know there's a couple of spots where her dad is talking to her, but that's not a fucking ghost. That's just a memory.
Not to mention, I think that could work well for Robert Pattinson. One of my few complaints about the Matt Reeves 2022 Batman is that I felt that we didn't get enough of Pattinson as Bruce Wayne. Now that was very much so the angle that Reeves was going for. It was Wayne has fallen into the role of Batman, and he wants to completely ignore the role of Bruce Wayne. We have the scenes of Alfred, played amazingly by Andy Serkis, trying to pull him back, saying it's like, you still have to be Bruce Wayne. You still have to run Wayne Enterprises. You still have to do this. You cannot forget, everything your father built. And I think seeing a little bit of a backstory with Robert Pattinson and whoever would play the girl, Andrea Beaumont, would really help flesh out the character. I mean,
that would.
Yeah, I mean,
that would definitely.
Anyone who just argues about Pattinson being the dude from Twilight, go get a life and go watch a Robert Eggers movie. The man is a great actor. He is phenomenal.
Pattinson is a fantastic actor.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little bit of issue with how he played Batman in this one, but I think that was just like lack of characterization, and the whole like trying to not be Bruce Wayne kind of thing. Because I have a little bit of an issue with how he was treating Alfred. Like, dude, that man wiped your fucking ass. Don't be such a dick to him.
Again, that was just very much Reeves' way of playing the character. He hasn't found the balance between Batman and Bruce Wayne yet.
Yeah.
And it's a version that we haven't seen that much of, And yeah, and I will say I did like it, but I would like to see Pattinson play more of that dual role in future movies. I'd like to see, because that's the challenge. It's playing both Bruce Wayne and Batman. That was always the big thing with Michael Keaton. It was seeing how he did in and out of the mask. With Christian Bale, how he did in and out of the mask. Even with Ben Affleck, how he did in and out of the mask. That's what makes a good Batman actor. So
yeah, Michael Keaton's the only Batman who can ever still be fucking terrifying with a smile on his face. Like, that is,
argument.
Anytime he smiles, it is like, oh God, he is gonna break some fingers.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people joke about Christian Bale and how he did the Batman voice, but I did really love how he brilliantly played the two different characters. I love how over the top he was as Bruce Wayne, how silly and flamboyant, because he's playing at the playboy element, and he's so good at it. And then he goes as Batman, and he's just so much darker and everything. So again, I really loved how he was able to bring that. And of course, you have Kevin Conroy, who was the first actor to say, let's have two different voices, one for Batman, one for Bruce Wayne. And that has become the basis of the character since then. So this is something I want to see more out of. It's like, okay, we got with this move with the Batman 2022, we got, okay, Pattinson is good as Batman, but he hasn't found his balance, so he's not good as Bruce Wayne yet. Okay, next movie, we need to see that.
Oh yeah, and I definitely think that there's room to grow for Pattinson, especially with it only being like 2 years into his Batman career. And I definitely think that that's where they're going with him. I just, in this particular movie, I just didn't like him very much, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. And because it didn't have anything to do with his acting or like how he portrayed Batman or anything. It felt like this was a person that you're not really supposed to like. Like, he's the irritating emo boy that is like, everything is sadness. And won't get out of that everything is sadness mood.
I like that. He is a little too emo. You're definitely right. All right. But yeah, so this series was really great. Like I said, it's up for Golden Globes for Best Miniseries, Best Actor and Actress for Colin Farrell and Cristin wow, I'm already massacring her last name again. How the hell do you pronounce that again? Milioti. So go check it out if you haven't, especially if you were a fan of the Matt Reeves Batman. Cannot wait to see what we're going to get out of the Penguin when he appears in the next Batman film. And yeah, give all the makeup awards to these guys. Yeah. Seriously, just it's like, is this an award for makeup? Go give it to them. Just give it to them. I don't even care what it says on there. Just go give it to the crew.
Oh yeah, the makeup in this was amazing, and the production was fantastic. The only thing that I have to say about it is, if crime dramas give you anxiety, it's probably not the thing for you, because it very much falls under the what Dorian calls the Shea doctrine. This is a beautiful movie. It is fantastic. It is important that it exists, but I fucking hated it.
He warned me about the Shea doctrine. And the wanna make her compromise, I believe, is the other one he mentioned.
Yeah.
But yeah, so The Penguin is currently airing on Max, HBO Max. Again, if you're a Batman fan, if you were a fan of the Matt Reeves Batman verse, if you're excited for what we're going to get with the next film, go check this out. It's really good. It's insanely well done. If you are a fan of crime dramas, absolutely go check this out. Like I said, this is undoubtedly Sopranos in Gotham. That is the easiest way to classify this. But I would say this does get both of our approvals for an awesome show. Really glad we checked it out. Shay, where can our listeners, viewers, where can they find you? And when will we be seeing you next?
So I am primarily on Facebook at Tate FX. I do props, costumes, makeup. Basically, if it needs to be made, I can make it. I can usually make it work. If not, I can at least make it look good. And to be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure what's coming up next for me. I am in the middle of moving, and my brain's a little bit fried.
I know that feeling very much so. Well, hopefully we'll have you back on here before too long. Now, as far as TV Party tonight, we're actually going to be kind of going quiet for a few weeks over the holidays. I think we've covered nearly everything that we needed to cover here. We're going to be coming back after the new year. We're going to be looking at, I mentioned Creature Commandos, the first project from James Gunn now that he's taken over the DCEU. We're going to be taking a look at that. We're going to be talking Skeleton Crew, the new Star Wars series on Disney Plus, which I've already got like 10 people on this network ready to climb in and talk about this. So it's going to be another just crazy cluster. Hopefully it'll be a little more organized than what happened when we reviewed the Acolyte, because that was a disaster. So we're going to be talking about that. We are also going to be looking at the latest season of Hell of a Boss, and Mark and I are going to finally start our 3-part retrospective on The Bear. We have been putting this off and putting this off and putting it off. We're finally going to get to it. This is a series that I've been meaning to finally start watching. My father, who is a huge foodie and an amateur chef, has nagged at me for ages, like, why aren't you watching The Bear? It's like, I know, I'm on it. It's like, let me get through everything that I have to watch for Mark and everything that I actually want to watch just for the hell of it first. 2025, though, we're going to be looking at some really great stuff. We got Andor season 2. We got the new season of oh no, it's not the new season. We're getting the latest Game of Thrones spinoff. We're getting Welcome to Derry. We're getting the final season of Stranger Things. So I know 2025, we're going to be bringing you some awesome stuff on TV Party tonight. And as far as the plugs that actually do pay my bills, that would be Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. And if you're a Batman fan, come check out our stuff on our Etsy and Handmade at Amazon shops. We have tons of jewelry dedicated to the Dark Knight, not just the Dark Knight, but the whole Justice League, DC in general. We love making superhero themed stuff. Now, as we are recording this, it is December 17th. The deadline to ship out for Christmas is tomorrow, December 18th. So unless you order within like the next 10 minutes, probably not going to be able to get you your stuff in time for Christmas, but we will ship our stuff out as fast as we can to you. And don't forget, we are still in the middle of our charity drive between the two shops. Again, that's Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Every order placed between those two, we will be donating $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. We recently passed the $500 mark for our donation. That's already way past what we did last year. So excited you guys are helping us to donate to such a wonderful cause. So you have until Christmas Eve. Any other orders you place, we will still be doing that donation, that charity drive. So if you are looking for some fun, cool, one-of-a-kind, geeky accessories, come check out our shops. And as always, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, deleted Twitter, never been so happy in my life, and TikTok. Again, that's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. Take a breath. Get collected. Now, so for myself, for Shay, thank you again for tuning in with us, folks. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time in Gotham City.